The first explosions came without warning. The sky above Earth Colony 7 turned blood red as plasma fire rained down from orbit. Civilians screamed and scattered across the concrete streets, and alarms wailed across the domed city. Among the panic, a young soldier named Jace sprinted across the road, helping an injured woman to cover. His hands were shaking, but his mind stayed clear. He had trained for this, but nothing prepared him for a surprise attack from a species humans thought were extinct. They were called the Thyrex. 10 years ago, they vanished after a peace summit. Now they were back, and this time, they came in silence. No warning. No declaration. Only fire and death. The defenders of the colony had no time to rally. Jace reached the command post and took cover behind a crumbling wall. His eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the enemy and something else. Something or someone he hadn't forgotten. She had furred blue ears. Long, flowing hair, the color of ice. Her eyes were too bright for any human, glowing softly even in the dark. He remembered the warmth of her lips and the scent of rain when she whispered goodbye. Her name had vanished in his dreams, but her face remained clear. She wasn't supposed to return. She was an alien envoy, a girl from the stars. A secret. Friend, his first kiss. He shook the memory off. War was not the time for remembering. The colony needed him now. His squad was scattered. He activated his communicator, searching for friendly signals. Static, nothing but static. That meant they were jamming all signals. The Thyrex were smart, smarter than the reports claimed. That scared him more than the gunfire in the distance. Suddenly, a shadow moved past the smoke. Jace raised his rifle, breath held. A figure stepped out tall, armored, and glowing faintly. His finger was on the trigger. But when the figure turned, he froze. His heart forgot how to beat. It was her. Older now, but still the same. Her lips parted in shock. Her blue ears twitched slightly. And her voice, soft and broken, said only one thing. Jace. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. Her armor shimmered like crystal glass, but she had no weapon in hand. He looked into her eyes and saw fear, not of him, but of what surrounded them. More shadows were coming, Thyrex soldiers. But she wasn't with them. Her body was turned to shield him, not to strike. His instinct told him to run, but something deeper told him to trust her. Before he could speak, she grabbed his hand and pulled him into an alley. Plasma bolts hissed past them as they ducked behind a broken service drone. She pressed her back to his, breathing hard. "They think I'm still one of them," she whispered. "But I left a long time ago. For you." Her voice cracked, and he didn't know what to say. His mind was spinning. "What are you doing here?" he asked finally. His voice was rough. Her face turned toward him, and for a second, the years melted away. "I came back," she said, "because I saw what they planned. I tried to stop it. They didn't listen." Her fingers clutched his arm. "I warned your command. They didn't listen either. I had no choice but to come. To you, you're the only one who might believe me." It was insane. It was impossible. But her eyes told him it was true. He had dreamed of her, hated her for leaving, prayed she was safe, and now she was risking her life to warn him. "Why?" he asked. "Why me?" Her lips trembled. "Because you were my first choice, my first secret, my first kiss." The heat in his chest rose like fire. He remembered that night. The rooftop, the stars above, and the promise she whispered before vanishing. A loud explosion snapped them back to reality. A squad of Thyrex soldiers rounded the corner. She moved first, pushing him aside and raising her arm. From her armor, a hidden weapon flared, stunning. 3 enemies with electric pulses. "Move," she shouted. "We need to reach the lower tunnels." "They won't scan there," Jace followed without hesitation. His questions would have to wait. Right now she was the only one keeping him alive. They moved through the ruins, the colony burning around them. The smell of smoke filled his lungs. The girl, his alien, guided him through secret paths once used by her people long ago. He kept close, watching her every move. She wasn't just beautiful, she was skilled, dangerous, and alone. He wondered what it cost her to come back. What price she paid to stand beside a human again. When they finally stopped, it was in a forgotten chamber below the city. She collapsed beside him, exhausted. Jace sat against the wall, breathing hard. "You saved me," he said. She turned. To him, her expression tired but soft. "No," she said. "I came back to save what we had, even if it was just a memory. Even if you forgot me." "I didn't forget you." The chamber was quiet, lit only by faint blue emergency lights. The walls were cracked. The air smelled of dust and melted plastic. Jace sat on the ground beside her, unsure what to say. His hands were still shaking, and his heart hadn't slowed since the moment he saw her again. She didn't speak either, only stared at the old wall in silence. Her name came back to him like a whisper in the dark. Liari, the girl with glowing skin and blue-furred ears. The alien diplomat who once laughed under Earth's moons. The girl who disappeared without a word. He thought he would never see her again. And yet, here she was, risking everything to help him. He turned to her. "They'll come looking," he said. "This place won't stay hidden forever." She nodded slowly. "I know. But I needed you to hear me. I needed you to understand. Why I left, it wasn't my choice." Her voice was soft, but the pain behind it was sharp. "They forced me to leave. They erased every trace of me. I wasn't allowed to say goodbye." Jace clenched his jaw. He remembered how long he waited. How many nights he looked at the stars, wondering if she ever thought of him. Now she sat right beside him, her body trembling from exhaustion. "You still haven't told me why you came back," he said. "You said I was your first kiss." "That can't be the only reason." She looked at him then, her eyes deep like oceans. "It wasn't just a kiss. It was the first time I felt free. The first time I felt like I wasn't a weapon. My people trained me to manipulate, to negotiate, to seduce. But Yoayu kissed me without asking for anything in return. It was pure. I never forgot that." He felt the weight of her words settle deep inside him. She wasn't the same girl from years ago. She was stronger now, sharper, but something inside her was still soft. "Still kind, still true. And now you're a traitor," he said. "To them, I mean." She nodded. "I gave up everything. I burned every bridge, for this, for us." Jace looked down at his hands. They were rough from training, from war. "There might not be in us left," he said. "You saw what they did to the colony. They're trying to wipe us out." Liari moved closer. "Not all of them want this. Some still believe in peace. But the ones in power, they've changed. They fear humans now. You've become stronger than they expected." There was truth in that. Humanity had advanced fast, maybe too fast. They had joined the Galactic Council as newcomers, and rose faster than any species before. The Theric saw that as a threat. And now, they had returned to crush it before it grew too strong. But Liari, she had chosen a different path, suddenly. Her ears twitched. She stood up quickly. "They're close. I hear boots above." Jace grabbed his rifle. "We need to move again." She nodded, checking the corridor. "There's a tunnel that leads outside the dome. We can reach the signal tower if we're fast. You can send a message to command. Warn them about what's coming." They moved. Together, quiet and fast. The underground passage was narrow and dark, filled with forgotten machinery and old resistance signs from the first colonist wars. Jace remembered studying this place in maps but never thought he'd be crawling through it with an alien girl he once kissed. At the end of the tunnel, daylight broke through a shattered grate. Liari climbed up first, offering her hand. Jace took it without hesitation. As they reached the surface, The devastation hit him hard. The colony was nearly gone. Fires burned across the skyline. Smoke rose like black mountains. People screamed. In the distance. And yet, this was still home. Liari pulled him behind a crumbled wall. "We're near the tower," she said. "Just 2 blocks ahead. But they'll have patrols." Jace nodded. "I'll cover you. You get the signal out." She touched his arm. "No, we do it together, like before." Her voice had no fear, only fire, only trust. They ran through the ruined streets, dodging debris and stepping over bodies. The old tower stood tall, cracked but still functional. Jace kicked open the door. Inside, the console still glowed. Liari rushed forward, typing commands into the alien interface. Jace guarded the door, heart pounding as shouts echoed behind them. "Got it," she said. "I bypassed the block. Message is transmitting. They'll know what's happening now. They'll send help." Jace looked back at her. Her face was streaked with ash, but her eyes still shone. "You saved us," he said. "You didn't have to." She smiled softly. "Yes, I did. Because you saved me first." The message was sent, but safety was still far away. Jace and Liari crouched in silence inside the broken tower as the sound of armored boots grew louder outside. The Theric soldiers were closing in. Jace checked his ammo. Only 1 charge left. In his rifle, Liari held a small plasma blade, its blue edge glowing softly in the shadows. Jace looked at her. "We're trapped," he said. "You should run. You're faster than me." Liari's response was a sharp shake of the head. "No, I came back for you. I won't leave you behind again." Her words were fierce, and her voice did not tremble. She meant every word. He wanted to argue, but he didn't. Deep down, it felt right to stand beside her, to face this together. He moved to the door and peeked out. 3 soldiers were coming fast. "We'll never win a fight here," he said. Liari moved quickly to the back wall. "There's a service ladder behind this panel. It leads to the tower's roof." "We climb." Jace nodded and helped her pry the panel open. The metal creaked as they pulled it aside, revealing a narrow ladder disappearing upward. He let her go first, watching the shadows shift below. Just before the enemy reached the room, he climbed after her and pulled the panel shut. The roof was exposed to the sky, winds howling over their heads. The colony stretched out in ruins around them. Jace crouched low behind a satellite dish, his breath quick and sharp. Liari knelt beside him, her eyes scanning the rooftops for a way out. "We can jump to the old hangar next door," she said. "It's risky, but better than staying here." Jace glanced down. The gap between the buildings was wide. "You think you can make that?" he asked. She met his eyes. "If you jump first, I'll follow." He didn't like the plan, but there were no better options. The soldiers were already below them. They couldn't wait. He backed up then, sprinted across the rooftop. His boots slammed against the edge as he jumped, arms stretched forward. He hit the next roof hard, rolled, and came up with scraped arms but steady legs. Liari was already running. She leapt with perfect balance, landing beside him without a sound. They moved fast across the rooftop. The hangar was a rusted skeleton of its former self. Inside, Jace found a pile of old hoverbikes under tarps. "Think one of these still works?" he asked. Liari crouched beside him, pressing her hand to one of the consoles. It lit up with a weak hum. She worked quickly, patching wires and bypassing broken circuits. "It'll run," she said. "Not fast, but it'll get us to the outer wall." Jace climbed onto the seat, and she wrapped her arms around his waist. He felt her heartbeat against his back. For a moment, nothing else mattered. The bike roared to life and shot through the hangar doors. Blaster fire cracked behind them as the enemy spotted their escape. Jace weaved through debris, rubble flying beneath the wheels. Liari held tight, her voice calm in his ear. Turn right. Through the sewer vent. It's a shortcut to the shield fence. They skidded into the dark tunnel, the roar of pursuit echoing behind them. Sparks flew as the bike scraped the narrow walls. Jace focused on the path ahead while Liari tracked their enemies behind. "They're not giving up," she said. "They want us both alive." Jace didn't ask why. He already knew. Liari had betrayed her people. She had turned her back on everything for him. And now she was the key to stopping a war. If they caught her, they'd use her voice, her knowledge, maybe even her memories to crush human resistance. They burst out of the tunnel into open daylight. The shield fence loomed ahead, flickering weakly. Damage from the attack had left part of it. "Unstable, we go now," Jace said. Before they shut it down completely. He sped forward, racing toward the gap. A sudden blast struck behind them, flipping the bike sideways. They crashed hard, sliding across the dirt. Jace coughed and pushed himself up. Liari was beside him, bruised but alive. She looked at the fence, then at him. "We can still make it," she said. "Run." He grabbed her hand, and together they sprinted for the breach. Lasers sliced the air around them. Dirt exploded near their feet. Jace jumped first, rolling through the gap. Liari followed, diving into his arms on the other side. They collapsed in the grass, breathing hard, alive but hunted. Behind them, the shield flickered and closed. They were outside the colony now. The forest stretched out in front of them. Safe for the moment. Liari sat up, brushing her hair from her face. "There's an old hideout nearby. My people used it during the first treaty meetings. We can rest there." Jace nodded. "Lead the way." He stood and followed her into the trees. His back ached, and his legs were sore, but he didn't care. Liari was here. She was real. And she was walking beside him, not just a memory from a rooftop kiss years ago. The forest was calm, but danger still clung to the air. Every broken twig made Jace glance over his shoulder. His hand stayed close to his rifle, though it was nearly out of charge. Beside him, Liari walked without fear, her steps light and precise. Her eyes scanned ahead, reading the shadows like a map. She moved through the undergrowth like she belonged there. "We're close," she said. "The hideout is just beyond the ridge." Jace nodded, his breath slowing as the trees grew thicker. The war behind them felt distant now, but it wasn't over. The enemy would keep hunting. He knew they had little time. At the top of the ridge, Liari knelt and pressed her hand to the earth. A panel shifted open, revealing a tunnel covered in moss and roots. "This was made during the peace talks," she explained. "Few remember it now. It was built for escape, not attack." Jace followed her inside without question. The tunnel led them deep into the ground. Cool air brushed against his face. Lights flickered on as they passed, still powered after all these years. At the end of the path, a sealed metal door stood waiting. Liari placed her hand on the panel, and the door hissed open with a soft click. Inside, the hideout was simple but clean. A single chamber with supply crates, an old table, and a cot in the corner. Jace stepped in and finally let his body relax. He dropped his gear and sat down, wiping dirt from his face. Liari moved to a console and activated the shield locks. "We should be safe here," she said, "at least for the night." Jace nodded, too tired to respond. His muscles ached, and his eyes burned. But in this moment of quiet, his thoughts turned to her again. She had returned for him. She had crossed sides, risked death, and fought beside him. "That wasn't nothing. Tell me what happened after you left," he asked softly. She sat down, across from him, folding her legs beneath her. "They took me back to the fleet," she said, "stripped me of my identity. I was no longer a peace envoy. I became a tool, a voice for war. I hated it, but I stayed silent. Until I heard what they planned for Earth, her voice lowered. "They saw your progress, your strength. They believed you would grow too fast. They decided to strike now, before humans could become a threat to their rule." Jace listened, the anger building in his chest. "We never asked for war," he said. "We just wanted a place among the stars." Liari reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "I knew that," she said. "That's why I came back. Because I believe in you, in your people, in you." Her eyes searched his face, and for a moment, the air between them shifted. She wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a weapon. They were just two souls caught between worlds. Jay stood and walked to the far wall. "Do you think Command will listen now?" he asked. "Your message was sent, but will they believe it?" Liari hesitated. "Some will. Others may see me as a spy. But your presence, your word, will matter. That's why we must survive. You must speak for me when I cannot." He turned back to her. "Then we'll survive," he said, "together." Her lips curved into a faint smile. She stood and moved to the cot, pulling a blanket from the supply crate. "You should rest," she said. "You've carried enough today." Jace didn't argue. He lay down, eyes heavy, thoughts drifting. Before he closed them, he felt her sit beside him. Her fingers gently brushed a cut on his cheek. "You haven't changed," she whispered. "Still reckless. Still kind." He opened his eyes just a little and saw her watching him. "You're different," he said. "Stronger. Braver than I remember." She lowered her gaze. "I had to be. I couldn't survive otherwise." He reached up and touched her hand. "You did more than survive. You came back." For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was peaceful, like the calm before dawn. Jace drifted to sleep with her, still beside him. The warmth of her presence kept the cold away. Outside, the world was burning, but here in this quiet room, something old and fragile had been reborn. A connection, once lost, was now slowly being rebuilt. Liari stayed awake, watching the door. Her blade rested on her lap, but her thoughts were far away. She remembered the day she left Earth, the tears she hid, the orders she followed. She had tried to forget the boy with soft eyes and a gentle heart. She failed. She had never forgotten him. Liari heard the hum of distant drones before the sensors picked it up. She stood slowly, her blade already in hand. Jace was still asleep, peaceful for once, but the safety of the hideout was slipping away. The Thyrex had found them. Maybe not their exact location, but they were closing in fast. She moved to the console, fingers flying across controls. Security feeds blinked to life. The camera at the tunnel entrance showed flickers of motion. Shadows. A squad had entered the forest. Jace stirred behind her as the console beeped softly. She turned and spoke calmly. "They're here." He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Already?" She nodded. "We have minutes, maybe less. The hideout shields will delay them, but not for long." He stood quickly, grabbing his gear. His rifle was still low on charge. He checked the blade on his belt and the small grenade clipped to his chest. "We can't fight them all," he said. "No," Liari agreed. "But we don't have to. There's a hidden exit beneath the storage crates. It leads to an escape shaft connected to the old mining tunnels. If we use that, we can reach the human outpost before sundown." She crossed the room, pulling crates aside with practiced ease. Jace knelt beside her, helping lift the metal floor panel. The shaft beneath was narrow, steep, and dark. Liari jumped in first, landing softly. Jace followed, dropping into the tunnel and sliding down behind her. Above them, alarms began to echo through the hideout. They ran. The mining tunnels were tight and winding, filled with old support beams and broken tracks. Their footsteps echoed. In the silence, Liari led the way, guiding them with memory. Jace kept close, every breath loud in his ears. Sweat dripped down his neck as dust filled the air. After what felt like hours, they reached a metal ladder leading upward. Liari climbed first, her hands quick and sure. At the top, she pushed open a hatch and looked around. "Clear," she said. Jace joined her, emerging into a rocky field just outside the colony perimeter. The sky above was hazy. The air smelled of smoke. He checked their position on his wrist display. "We're 6 kilometers from the outpost," he said. "We'll need to move fast if we want to reach it before nightfall." Liari nodded, already stepping forward. "Let's go." They ran together through the wild terrain, staying low, moving fast. Time passed with each pounding step. Birds scattered from trees. Distant gunfire echoed behind them. Jace could feel the fatigue dragging at his legs, but he didn't slow down. Every time he looked at Liari, he felt stronger. She never stopped moving, never hesitated. At last, they saw the outpost wall in the distance. The gray tower stood firm behind energy fences, watchlights scanning the hills. Jace reached for his communicator. "This is Corporal Jace Ryler, requesting entry. I'm with a former Thyrex envoy. She carries vital intel. We need immediate shelter." There was a pause, then static. "Copy, Corporal. Approach slowly, hands visible. Defense teams are watching. No sudden moves." Jace looked at Liari. "They'll let us in, but they're cautious." She nodded. "I expected that. I'll do whatever it takes to prove I'm not a threat." As they reached the gates, weapons turned toward them. Human soldiers in armor aimed from behind barricades. Jace raised his hands, stepping forward. Liari followed, her blade sheathed. Her body tense, the gate opened slowly. A commander stepped out to meet them. "Corporal Ryler," the officer said. "Who is this alien?" Jace didn't flinch. "This is Liari. She defected. She warned us about the attack. She sent the message from the tower." The officer studied her. "We received that signal. It helped us redirect reinforcements. Saved hundreds. But we don't trust easily." Liari stepped forward. "I understand. Keep me under watch. Lock me up if you must. But I have more information. I know where they'll strike next. I know the codes that control their planetary weapons. Let me help stop them." Her voice was steady, eyes locked on the commander's. There was silence. Then the officer nodded. "She comes with me. You get debriefed immediately." Jace stepped beside Liari. "Where she goes, I go." The commander raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. Together, they entered the outpost, heavy doors closing. Behind them, inside, everything was tight and controlled. The halls were lit by cold blue lights. Soldiers watched them closely. Jace kept his hand near his sidearm but made no sudden moves. Liari walked with calm grace, never showing fear, though she could feel the tension around her like a blade against her skin. They were led to a small room. A table, 2 chairs, a recording device on the wall. The commander gestured. "Talk. Start from the beginning." Liari sat down, folding her hands in front of her. "I was born on the outer moon of Ashara. I was trained to read human minds, to speak your language, to break your resolve." Jace stood behind her, watching. He listened as Liari began to reveal secrets of her own people, not with anger, but with purpose. Every word she spoke built a fragile bridge between 2 enemies. It was not peace yet, but it was the first real step. Asterisk. The debrief lasted for hours. Liari answered every question with calm detail. She gave names, locations, frequencies, and battle plans. The human officers took notes, checked her data, and ran background scans. Everything she gave them matched. The intercepted codes from the Thyrex fleet. Jace watched from behind the glass. His hands were clenched, but not in anger. He knew the risk she had taken. If her people found out what she had done, there would be no mercy. She was not just a Traitor. She had burned her entire world to protect his. When Liari finally left the room, she looked exhausted. Her ears drooped slightly and her shoulders sagged. Still, her eyes lit up when she saw Jace. "They believe me," she said. "They're preparing a strike on the main control node. If we shut it down, their fleet will lose access to ground weapons." Jace stepped closer. "Did they say what happens to you after this?" She paused. "They want to keep me under watch. Some think I'm still a spy. Others want to offer me protection in exchange for more information. I don't know where I belong now." He didn't hesitate. "You belong here. You belong with me." Her breath caught for a moment. Then she smiled. It was small, but real. "After all this," she said softly, "you still remember me?" Jace nodded. "I never forgot. You were my first kiss. And the only one I ever kept in my heart." She reached out, her fingers brushing his. For a moment, they stood in silence, two souls who had survived war, betrayal, and fire. "Then let's finish what we started," she said. "Let's stop this war together." Jace grinned. Side by side, within the hour, they joined the strike team. The target was deep underground, beneath the ruins of the old peace treaty building. The Thyrex had hidden their main control unit in the last place anyone would expect. It was both a trap and a message. But Liari knew the layout. As they geared up, Jace handed her a spare rifle. "You sure you're ready for this?" She checked the charge and nodded. "I was trained for war, but now I fight for peace. That changes everything." Together, they entered the dropship as engines roared to life above them. The flight was short and tense. No one spoke much. The humans were focused. They moved with purpose, not hate. Liari sat quietly, her mind sharp, her eyes scanning the map projected before them. "We'll breach from the west wing," she said. "The wall there is thin." They never reinforced it fully. The moment they landed, the squad moved out. Blaster. Fire cracked across the courtyard as drones swarmed. Jace and Liari ran through smoke and rubble, covering each other with tight precision. She moved like lightning, disabling turrets and opening locked doors with alien codes. Inside the chamber, the control unit glowed red. 5 Thyrex guards stood in formation. The leader was tall, armored in gold, and carried a spear of light. His eyes locked on Liari. "You chose the wrong side," he said coldly. She stepped forward without fear. "No," she said. "I chose the right one." Before he could reply, she launched forward, her blade spinning. Jace fired from the side, dropping 2 guards. The battle was fast and brutal. In the end, Liari stood over the fallen leader, breathing hard. The control unit blinked behind her. Jace moved to the console. "Can you shut it down?" he asked. She nodded and placed her hand on the panel. Her fingers moved quickly, entering the codes. The red lights turned blue. The hum of power faded. On their comms, the strike commander's voice rang out. "Weapons down. The fleet has lost ground control." Cheers erupted across the channel. The mission was a success. The war wasn't over, but Earth now had a chance. Liari stepped back, staring at the dead commander. "He trained me," she said. "He was my mentor once. He taught me how to speak your language." Jay stood beside her. "And now you used his lessons to save lives." She nodded slowly. "I wonder if he ever thought this would happen." Together, they walked out of the chamber as human forces secured the area. The skies above were finally clear. Days passed. The Thyrex fleet pulled back. Peace talks reopened. Liari stood before the human council, not as a prisoner, but as a witness. She told her story, clearly and without fear. Her voice was steady. Her message was simple. Peace was still possible. If they dared to try, Jay stood behind her proud. When the council session ended, they left together. Outside the station, under a quiet sky, she turned to him. I still remember that kiss, she said. On the rooftop, I was afraid. But it gave me hope, and now I'm not afraid anymore. Jace smiled. Neither am I. He reached out and gently held her hand. So what now? She leaned closer. Now we stop counting stars apart. We find our place among them. Together.